Welcome back to another video with Monkey Sensing Sensei, and I'm really excited for today because I'm filming the first installment of my new series, Perfect Zens. Yes, what is Perfect Zen? Well, to me, Perfect Zen is an album that is perfect all the way through. Some of my all-time favorite records, not just Perfect Tens, but Perfect Zens. And today, I got an album that is so important to my teenage years, important to my development as a human being, and one of the best albums of the early 2000s. And that would be the amazing masterpiece that is Sum 41's Does This Look Infected? Yes, I was able to snag up a copy of this. Actually, my bosses bought me this for Christmas. As you can see, you get that nice lenticular cover to it. Now, this is actually I don't know if I would consider it a bootleg pressing, but it's not really an official island pressing or anything like that. It's pretty much just a reissue that came out on Aquarius Records. It was mastered over at Masterdisc, and it was pressed on 180 gram colored vinyl. Now, there were 4 variants that came out. There was this khaki one that I have, there was a blue variant, and there were 2 other variants that are escaping my mind currently. Now, before I get into the album review proper, I would like to say that there was some controversy when it came to buying these albums. A lot of people were reporting that the albums were the wrong color, that there was surface noise. There's a lot of issues in the production of this album and just this reissue in general. But thankfully, besides the darker color, I got the khaki. I got the right one. I made sure I looked and I checked, and it was beautiful. Just again, a little darker than advertised, but that's better than having a totally wrong color. And this is, of course, 180 gram colored vinyl. Again, there's not very much in the way of information on these pressings. I did some research, and I didn't find too much. I know they were pressed at Masterdisc, Aquarius Records, Factor, Canada, just your basic stuff. Like I said, it's almost like a legal bootleg of sorts. But I'm just happy to have this album in any kind of LP format, and it sounds fantastic. Now, who is Sum 41, you may ask? Sum 41 is a pop-punk band, pop-punk metal-ish band from Canada, whose lead singer is Derek Whibley, and they've had a revolving door of members over the years. Most notably David Brownsound, Cone, who's their bass player, and Steve-O-32, who got replaced by Frank Zumo in later years. But this album includes the classic lineup: Derek Whibley, Cone, Dave Brownsound, I should say, and Steve-O-32 on drums. Classic Sum 41 lineup. Now, before this, they had released All Killer No Filler in 2001, which to me is a pop-punk masterpiece, one of the best albums of that era. And then before that, they released their Half Hour Power album, or EP. It's like a glorified EP. But this album came out in 2002, not even a year after All Killer No Filler, which is, again, impressive to me, because most artists don't come out with albums every year and evolve so much to where it sounds like a completely different band almost. And now you may be thinking, what do you mean by that? Well, you gotta look in context of 2001. Sum 41 was seen as one of those bands that were a Blink-182 ripoff. They were doing the pop-punk, bratty, immature, very juvenile lyrical content, power chords, and all that sort of thing. Like, they were seen again as a Blink-182 ripoff. Like Newfound Glory and, Good Charlotte, all that. A whole scene of pop-punk. That whole scene of pop-punk. But these guys were able to come through and punch their way and burst their way out of that scene with an album that is incredibly heavy, it's forceful, it's very much more mature tone in context of their early work. Again, you wouldn't even think this was the same band. These guys knocked it out of the park with an album that's just fantastic from start to finish. And to me, this album is a perfect zen, mainly just because every song is just a banger. No weak tracks. Out of all the 12 tracks, it's not a weak song, not a skippable moment. It's basically heavy all the way through, with very little time to really breathe. You get song after song after song after song is just heavy, heavy, heavy. You get some parts in between that are slower. The closing track, Hooch, you get this little closing number, you get this amazing guitar solo from David Brownsound, and it kind of has like this feathering hitting the ground kind of effect, how it starts from high up and it goes down very slowly, and you get the fall into you, but don't believe that this is real line that Derek sings, and it just ends the album out on a perfect note. It starts off with the amazing and powerful Hell song. A song about, yes, people have problems, but you gotta find a way to get through it. Next song, Over My Head, Better Off Dead, which is a song basically about, okay, I'm sick of life, I'm done. So there's a lot of, I noticed with this album, there's lots of peaks and valleys. Like there's depressing songs, but then there's songs that are more uplifting and more happy in tone than other songs. Like My Direction, again, this song about how life's not perfect, but I'm living, and perfection is basically all he had, as in like, you know, a good life. And then you go right from that into Still Waiting, one of their first really hard-hitting political songs. This is during the Bush era. People were frustrated, especially the youth. It's almost like the early 90s, where people were just frustrated with what was going on in the world. They just wanted to write songs about real issues. And again, this album isn't going to be like a NoFX record or an American Idiot. There's nothing on that level of fantastic social commentary, but there are sparks of brilliance that doesn't take away from the Sum 41 sound. And again, there are still lyrics on here that are kind of juvenile and bratty, like on Anik, which is almost like their version of Family Reunion from Blink-182. Hey, buddy. But you have songs like that. And then you have songs like Mr. Amsterdam, which is an amazing track, one of those faster, heavy tracks, but they didn't. And to me, that's the mark of a true artist, is evolving, taking a risk, doing something different. And they definitely took a risk. They went heavier, they went bolder. Again, some of the old vestiges of Sum 41 are still in there, but for the most part, this album is a totally different beast. And I think when it comes to an overall sound and overall, got tracks like Thanks for Nothing. Again, that little opening chord, a little bit of a break from the heavier stuff, just for a second, and it popped with that instrumental break right in the beginning. And this is one of the last vestiges of Sum 41 having a hip-hop rap element to their sound. Because more people will know that grew up in the early 2000s, the song Fat Lip, how all the members of the band, for the most part, I believe, except for Cohn, have a little bit of a rap verse. They go back and forth. That's kind of a big song back in the day, Fat Lip, where they had, again, the hip-hop verses. They ditched that almost entirely for this record. There's, again, Thanks for Nothing has that. Steve-O's doing a little rap verse, but then Derek is singing the verses and the chorus, and it's just, again, incorporating some of the older sounds of Sum 41 into a more darker, mature theme. And that's what's so great about this record, is that it's a totally evolved album. They didn't make All Killer No Filler Part 2. They could have easily done that and cashed in on pop punk, because by 2002, pop punk was still big. And to me, that's the mark of a true artist, is evolving, taking a risk, doing something different. And they definitely took a risk. They went heavier, they went bolder. Again, some of the old vestiges of Sum 41 are still in there, but for the most part, this album is a totally different beast. And I think when it comes to an overall sound, it all just gels so well. Track to track. There's nothing on here that would make you think this isn't supposed to be on the record. This doesn't belong. Again, that might just be because of the album's brevity and just how short it is. It's only about 32 minutes in length, which might be my only complaint, is that I wish there was another song or two. It might have taken away by just how heavy and forceful it is and just the theme. Because you would have had a song on there that might have been different, or something that would have been from the Pain for Pleasure. I didn't even get into that. Pain for Pleasure was a little side group that Sum 41 had done in the early days. It's like a Maiden-esque kind of 80s metal band, and they all dressed up in alter egos as different, and basically an 80s hair metal band. And they had one song from All Killer No Filler called Pain for Pleasure, and it was like totally different from the rest of the album. Because this album's already heavy as it is. You don't need those other songs to really muddy up the perfection that this album is. So in a way, I'm glad that they didn't make it too long, because if they would have made it longer, then it might have ruined the magic of this album. It's a get in, get out kind of affair. You listen, especially on vinyl, you listen to the first 6 tracks, you get that little break, you flip the record over. And then as soon as you put the record on side 2, All Messed Up comes on. Which All Messed Up to me is like the last kind of pop punk sounding song that they would ever really do. It's more, it's something that could have been all Killer No Filler, but just a little more heavy. Again, still fits with the theme of the record, but the closest thing you get is All Messed Up. And that just roars on the speaker. As soon as you put that needle on, it just, boom, pops right out. And again, the mastering on this is fantastic. I believe it's a digital source, because I believe Master Disc, from what I've read, mostly does digital, digital sources. They just use the MP3s and put it on vinyl, which again, to me, that can be a good thing. Like with the Beatles reissues, it makes them cheaper and they can produce more, so they're not expensive down the line. But at the same time, it sucks because the sound quality does kind of suffer a little bit. But for an album like this, it's heavy. You know, it's kind of like, it's in your face. You don't really need great production values. You don't need that. And on top of that, by 2002, many groups weren't using analog tapes anymore. They had been dead since the 90s. Most artists were recording on Pro Tools and just digital sources in general. You know, you didn't need analog tape anymore. Minus, you know, the garage rock bands of the 2000s, that whole revival where they would use analog tape, which again is great. But these guys didn't do that, but they still made a great record. Again, the CD version I had as a teenager sounded great. This vinyl copy sounds great. Now, unfortunately, I would say, oh, well, you know, or you can get a copy. I think these are going to go out of print really fast. And since the original pressings of this, when it got reissued back a couple years ago, are like in the hundreds of dollars, I would just wait until either you can find one of these or just wait until they reissue it again. Because I'm pretty sure the Island Camp or some 41 themselves will reissue it. Maybe down the line we'll get another actual official pressing of this record, but until then this pressing does sound great. Now before I end the video, I did want to show off the actual jacket because it is an amazing looking piece. You can tell it's very shiny in exterior. And again, these go for like $50, so I'm glad I was able to get it as a Christmas gift because I wouldn't have bought this on my own, realistically. But again, I thank my two bosses for picking this up for me as a Christmas gift. Yeah, here we go. The record didn't come in one of these MoFi Fidelity sleeves. It actually comes in this sleeve right here. It's got, again, the back cover with the track listing. It's hard to see that with the glare and everything, but I'll get that close. And it's got the basically the album cover, the lady or whoever on the album cover with the skull and the Parental Advisory label. This is what the record came in. But I don't like these because they can scratch up the record. They have, you know, paper filings in them. It's just a mess. So I usually put it in one of my MoFi Fidelity sleeves because these things are amazing. And you can tell if you look at the color here, it's way darker than what the sticker says. It still kind of green khaki-ish, I suppose, but it's certainly not as advertised. Yeah, let me take this bastard out. Oh yeah, so here's side A. Again, beautiful, came in beautiful, no defects. Nice heavyweight 180 gram, which I love. One thing I like about modern vinyl is that they're finally putting out colored variants at 180 grams. Because that's one thing I don't like about colored variants. A lot of them don't sound as good as the black vinyl counterparts. Because they use the different vinyl components to make the records. And they don't sound as good by design. But making them 180 grams, I feel like gives them some more weight. And it's able to make them just more sturdy and sound better. So I might buy more colored pressings down the line in the future if they are mostly 180 grams and if they have good sound quality. And here's side 2. Again, get that beautiful skull. And it's weird, it's hard to find, when I did research, it's hard to find information on this pressing, but there's some information on the dead wax that you can find. It's so hard to see because that dark khaki. If you give me one moment, I can look here. It says FR1086, AQR 666LP, which is like the Lucifer label that this is probably printed out on. And it says A dash, which is probably just side A, I'm going to assume. But I think the other one has a B on the end of it. Yeah, the other one has a B. Okay, so yeah, it's basically okay, side A and B. That's self-explanatory. And again, these are going to be extremely hard to find in the coming months. So again, if you really love this album to death like I do, and you're willing to spend the $50, then you know, yeah, I'd say pick it up. Oh, and before I forget, one of the great things about this pressing, I will say, though, I'll give them a lot of credit, even though they did have a lot of complaints, is that it comes with this amazing full-page book. This book right here is the CD booklet, but just expanded to basically 12 inches, which is amazing because a lot of vinyl pressings nowadays, they don't come with a booklet like this. They usually cheap out because they got to spend all the money on making the record and manufacturing everything and the sleeves. But this pressing, they didn't do that. They made the actual CD booklet into the vinyl booklet. So you have the lyrics here. You got the guys here again. There's a whole death, like this dark theme of this record. Like you got them as zombies, get eaten by zombies. Like you got this. I don't even know who this looks like. Cone maybe. He's a zombie. Because I remember, quite frankly, or vividly, I should say, that about this book. I remember this in the CD version back in 2002. I didn't buy this album until about 2007 at a Newberry Comics, which I think is actually closed now. And it's photos. Now they actually became the zombies that were eating them. It's quite cool. I love the red walls too. I don't know if that's actually an effect or that's actually like a just place they went to. Here's more lyrics to the songs. Here's Steve-O as a zombie. And then you got Derek, the lead singer, as a zombie who looks constipated. I don't know what that photo is. And of course on the other side you have all these different thank yous and producers and everything else. And then you have Cone as a zombie, which is quite cool. Then you have other releases that they have. And again, good luck finding these on vinyl. I know that I'll Kill No Filler is on vinyl, but it's one of those records that's kind of hard to find. It's I'm sure you can manage if you look on Amazon or wherever, but again, they don't press that many. And then Half Hour Power, I don't even know if there was a reissue of that or not. I'll have to do some more research. And then here's the four guys right here. Again, like the back of the CD booklet. Four guys as zombies. There's different photos. Cole looks pretty happy to be dead. Pretty happy to be a zombie. And here you go. I'll show you the lenticular shiny cover again. It really shows up on camera. Look at that. And even the back. It's one of those things I don't even like touching it because I want to get my fingerprints all over it. But yeah, there's the track listing. And again, I love when records have an even track listing and they do half and half, and it's perfect to me. I love when records do that. 6 and 6 is no uneven. As you guys saw in my Let It Be review, I kind of had a pet peeve of that. Like, just make the track listing even and not be lopsided. But that's how they chose to do it in that time. But for this record, even though it wasn't made for vinyl at the time, because it was early 2000s, vinyl was pretty much on its way out or dead by then, quite frankly, before the resurgence came about 10 years later or so. This album is perfect for vinyl because, again, it's short. The track listing is so tight, but also because when you go from No Brains to All Messed Up, when you turn that record, All Messed Up is almost like an intro track to another album, but it just continues this album. And it's just perfect how they did that. And again, that's just really Sum 41's credit of how the album as a format, not just a song. These guys actually cared about their albums, not just really about singles. The hit singles were there. You had the Hell song, Over My Head. Still Waiting was a big single. Again, one of those highly political songs from the early 2000s. And you had All Messed Up as another single. But when the deep cuts are equally as good as your singles, and the whole album is equally as good as everything else, that says you're doing something right as a band. And it really shows the evolution of Sum 41. Now, Sum 41 would go on to make albums like Chuck and Underclass Hero, but after Chuck, Dave Brownsound would leave for a little while. And they took on more of a gothic punk sound with their next two releases. Underclass Hero being more of like a return to All Killer No Filler, pop punk, but with more of a gothic element. And then Scream Bloody Murder being totally off the rails as gothic punk, really piano-driven record, really dark, took the darkness of this album and Chuck and really kicked up to overdrive. And after that, right around 2016, they took a bit of a hiatus after 2011. But in 2016, they came out with 13 Voices, which I think is one of the best records they've come out with in years. And granted, this album came out right around the time Derek Whibley, their lead singer, almost died from alcohol overdose. He was in a hospital, he almost died, and he almost gave up on life. But then he came back and wrote a kick-ass album like 13 Voices. And it's a return to that heavy sounding Sum 41. And again, just an amazing, amazing record. And then a couple years after that, they came out with their last album, Order and Decline, and almost like an extension of 13 Voices that's finely tuned and changed a little bit. And that's pretty much where the Sum 41 story ends. And maybe when I get more of the records, I can talk about the other albums in detail, like Chuck and All Kill No Filler, because they are also great albums in their discography. But to me, they don't live up to the hype that is this record. This record to me is Sum 41's magnum opus. It's a masterpiece. I cannot say enough good things about it. And that's why this album deserves to be the first album that is considered a perfect Zen for me. So, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate everyone coming in watching the videos. If you like, please give it a like, thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos on my vinyl records. I changed my background a little bit. It's a blank wall right now, but I plan on getting some shelves, maybe putting some of my records up here to frame them, or at least just hang them up for now and get some of my books, some music memorabilia. I really want to grow this shelf as my channel grows, or grow this wall as my channel grows. And I really want you guys to be on the journey with me. So again, thank you guys for watching. Please stick around for more videos. And remember to keep meditating through vinyl.